I work for a large retail chain. Because of my busy school schedule, I'm typically forced to work the evening shift until closing. Not that I mind, it's usually quiet, and sometimes I can even get a bit of studying done between customers. There are some downsides though. I don't know what it is about nighttime, but as soon as the sun goes down, the weirdos come out of the woodwork. The closer we get to closing, the higher the probability of being harassed by low-life scum. I've had to handle drunks, meth heads, and people with the weirdest shopping lists. I'm talking like super suspicious combinations like duct tape, rope, a shovel, gasoline, and a tarp. Like, sometimes I wonder if I'm being filmed for a prank video, but no one ever shows up to tell me it was all a joke. Still, I've never feared for my life. At least not until last night. Not until a guy showed up in a trench coat. It was about 30 minutes till closing. Late enough that we started dimming the lighting, but early enough that it wasn't unusual for new arrivals to show up for a few last-minute errands. Our store is connected to a shopping centre. So we've got two entrances, one that leads to the parking lot and one that leads into the mall. Since we stay open an hour later than the mall, we usually lock that entrance once the rest of the shopping centre closes, limiting the influx of people. That evening, however, I could tell from my position at the parking lot entrance that the security panel on the mall entrance hadn't been pulled all the way shut. This wasn't extremely abnormal, as we'd sometimes send one of the guys to scour the mall for discarded shopping carts. It just meant the mall side cashier wasn't able to leave her post. It had been a really quiet night. I hadn't heard a peep for at least 20 minutes when I saw an old man walking very slowly through the women's clothing section. He was headed my way, albeit at a sloth's pace. At first, I didn't think anything of it. As long as he was out by closing, he could take the scenic route through the bra section for all I cared. It was only when he came into full view that I knew I was in for some annoying late-night weirdo shenanigans. He was wearing a trench coat. "Oh, Flasher," I groaned, as I noticed his uncovered pale hairy legs shaking with every step. His sockless feet landed in worn brown penny loafers that, judging by the over-exaggerated steps he kept taking, might as well have weighed a ton. Seriously, he walked as though the floor was made of molasses and his shoes made of gum. Even among the circus show freaks I'd seen walk through the door on a daily basis, this man stood out as exceptionally bizarre. I grabbed my walkie and tried to reach my manager. "Marcy, we've got a code 12, I whispered. Yes, flashers happened often enough that we had a code for them. I waited for Marcy to reply, but got no answer. She'd probably forgotten her walkie in her office again. I picked up the phone next to my register and dialed the code for the intercoms. Code 12 on AL6, I repeat, code 12 on AL6. This time I knew Marcy would hear. On the off chance that she didn't, I hoped my call would attract one of the clerks. Maybe I couldn't stop what was going to happen, but damn if I was going to be the only one having to suffer seeing shriveled old sausage. Unfortunately, no one came. No one even messaged back. I felt myself shrinking where I stood, tensing in anticipation for what was to come. "Hey, want to see what's under my coat?" he asked, as he neared the main aisle separating us. I cringed. "You need to get out of here." He was close enough that I could see every hair on his disgustingly thin legs. They were all flesh and bone, no muscle or fat to speak of. His hands, probably just as bony and disgusting, were stuffed inside the trench coat's pockets. I could see the coat rippling and moving. Oh God, Lord knows what he was doing under there with those hands. As for his head, it was just as lean as his legs. His face was covered in age spots and his skin was pulled so tight that it looked like someone had shrink-wrapped the skull and painted it beige. The strangest thing was that his coat seemed rather large, as though all his body fat was concentrated in his midsection. He didn't just have a beer belly, he had an entire freaking brewery under there. Hey, wanna see what's under my coat? He repeated, now in the aisle. I could tell he was going to show me either way. I knew how these things went down. He'd open his coat, show off his sausage, maybe even do a little helicopter trick, and then run off, never to be seen again. The closer he got, the better, or rather the worse view I'd get. I just wanted to get it over with while he was still far enough that the image wouldn't get burned into my retinas. Okay, show me, I grumbled. He froze, looking taken aback. I guess he was used to having people beg him not to do it. His shock wore off, however, and he slipped his hands out of his pockets. With a boyish smile, he grabbed both sides of his coat and swung it open, gleefully presenting himself to me. What I saw there wasn't what I expected to see. It was worse. So much worse. I couldn't even tell you if his genitalia were under there, because I was too busy staring at the faces. Dozens of heads protruded from his stomach. They twisted and turned, mouths gaped open and letting out silent screams of horror. Near the top of his chest, I recognized Marcy's stern features, sharp nose, and sour lips. On his left hip was the mole-side cashier. Near the middle, I noticed one of the clerks. Every single person that had been on duty that night, as well as several strangers, were peeking out through his flesh. They had melded together into an unholy abomination. Between the more distinctive heads, I could see mouths, noses, and stray eyes, as though I was discovering a second layer of heads buried beneath a coat. I stood in shocked silence, taking it all in. And then, as quickly as you'd close your curtains, the old man closed his trench coat. He trotted off in a weird slow motion run through the door, a satisfied grin on his face. The only thing he left in his wake were my colleagues' uniforms, and what I can only assume were the clothes of the customers he came across.